I'd like to quickly add there, Rudy, that what happens is, I'm a Canadian Armed Forces veteran, and I served for almost 9 years, from 86 to 95, went over Iran in 88, and what happens is, the way I look at it, anyone who's done their service in the military, we were part of a gigantic brotherhood and sisterhood. And, in my heart and soul, you are always part of that brotherhood and sisterhood. Some other veterans may not look at it that way, but what happens is I look upon it as it is my duty to be my brothers and sisters' keeper, and it is also my duty to protect the people. And you know what? That's what I'd like to share with you, Rudy. When you joined the military at age 17, you were promised your US citizenship.
Yes, I was.
What I'd like you quickly to tell, how did you feel 30 years afterwards, after you're honorably discharged from the military? How did you feel when you were arrested for the offense, the drug offense, and the small thievery stuff, and then all of a sudden they deported you over to Germany? What did you feel like inside?
Well, I felt ripped apart, and the reason why I was deported was because of an offense of petty theft. It wasn't a drug charge. But in California, well, I was on crack cocaine then, and so how I would support my habit, I would steal out of stores. But if you do more than one petty theft, they have a law called petty with a prior, meaning that it's a felony offense. So really, I got deported, for, I don't know what I stole. I think it was a coffee maker or something like that. But anyway, regardless of that, when I was in that plane and the immigration officer was right beside me, and he had that .45 under his coat, and as the plane banked and made like a circle or whatever, and it was Santa Monica Beach, and I could see Los Angeles, I cannot even explain the feeling. It was just very surreal, but I knew, it was over, and that I just felt horrible. And then when I got off the plane, there were 4 German policemen waiting for me at the plane door. In fact, they called me first out of the plane, and then they interrogated me and said that, they could retry me for the offense that I did in America. It was just crazy. It was horrible. I was angry. I was angry, and I didn't think that my offense, merited me being deported. What it is, the immigration laws changed because of the Oklahoma City bombing, meaning that any body that had a permanent resident card, if they did, and it doesn't matter what crime they did, if they were incarcerated for over a year, they put it under a category called aggravated felony. Now, even the word aggregated doesn't really apply to the crime, but because of the wording, they just manipulated the whole thing, and thousands of us were deported that, we're living in the country all of our lives, that I have children and grandchildren, that I haven't even seen. And being a veteran, I just felt I'm still angry, really. However, I do accept responsibility for my actions. I mean, I'm recovered from drugs and alcohol. I have a few years clean and sober by the grace of God. But regardless, I do not think that my crime or my actions merited me being deported, being ripped away from my family, my father dying of cancer, that died while I was over here. I couldn't go back. Coming over to a country that I couldn't even speak the language. I'm really not happy at all.
Well, I noticed that you've been sober now for 3.5 years, and Rudy,
4 years.
4 years now. Congratulations. I've been, sober from alcoholism for, almost 9 years now.
Oh, that's great.
And you know what, Rudi, is that you've done an excellent job. I mean, you are a perfect example of how people can overcome past obstacles. And I know I hear the hurt in your voice, but, you are a true inspirational beacon to look upon because, when you were sent over to Germany, you were able to get your citizenship, and then you eventually headed over to London, England, where you formed your nonprofit organization, and that in itself, I mean, people, you're a pure example of that. We can rise out of nothing and we can return back to helping the people. And, I really look forward to the day when your book is written, because I really look forward to reading it. But, what I want you to talk about is, how were you able to overcome the obstacles in Germany and then basically head over to England, where you are right now, and form your nonprofit organization?
Well, I think I call it fate or destiny, because when I went back to Berlin, I lived in this men's home, Salvation Army men's home, and I was really, struggling to stay clean and sober, and then I started going to therapy, and I was doing quite well. And what happened is, one of the guys in the house, the social worker, came running in my room saying the guy was having a convulsion. So when I went in his room, he was having a convulsion, and there was a needle in his arm filled with heroin. He was turning blue. So my first reaction, first of all, was to get the needle out of his arm and, to give him, to try to resuscitate him. And, he was turning blue, he was bleeding out of his nose and his mouth, and I was hollering to the social worker for some ice, because when you OD on heroin, you want to put some ice in the groin area and under their arms. But anyway, she was upset herself, and so he was turning blue, and so, I gave him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, and the man died, and, that experience, I mean, seeing, the guy dying and bleeding, it triggered the rest of those memories that happened to me 30 years ago in that children's home. And for a month, all the memories started surfacing about my sexual abuse. And, I was really raw around the edges, and I wanted to come to London, and even in Germany, they didn't want to give me my citizenship. They wanted to find out, was my mother ever married again, and it was just really horrible. The bottom line, as soon as I got, we call it an Ausweis, as soon as I got that, I came to London with not a dime in my pocket, not a dime, and they don't have missions over here like they do in the States for people that, don't have a place to stay or any of that stuff. So I spent, the first night at Heathrow Airport, and, was homeless on the streets. And what happened is, Reginald, I had a spiritual experience that I can't explain. I was very angry at God, and I cried out to him, and I was just near a nervous breakdown. I mean, everything was just closing in. And I could remember it was on my birthday. I just had this out-of-body experience I can't explain. I just know that there was this warm air, and it circled me, and I started rising up, and I heard this voice. It said something to the fact, he has so many years, and then we're going to bring him home, anoint him. And I felt this oil being poured over my head. And as I opened my eyes, I seen this kingdom, and I was like led in a procession around this outer court, and there was this lady in the middle of the court. She kind of looked a lot like my mother, like they were going to present me something. But anyway, because of that experience, it was like God, showed me a little bit of the other side. And I knew from that experience that, I was called to do something, but at the same time, it turned my life around, and I am not the same person, and thank God for that experience. I don't really know maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. But you know what? I'm clean and sober today, and I have a conscious contact with God that I cannot explain.